Hey everyone, so today I have all these Pro iPhones right here in front of me. As you can see, we've got everything starting from the iPhone 13 Pro in Graphite, the 14 Pro in gold, and all the way through to the new 17 Pro in silver. In this video, I really just want to walk you through my actual real-world experience with all of them, what's really different between each one. And the most important part is that I know a lot of you are sitting there with maybe a 13 Pro or a 14 Pro, and you're just wondering if you're missing out on much, or maybe you're looking to pick up a used Pro model right now and you're just not sure where the sweet spot is anymore for 2026. It's a lot to take in. I know Apple's been changing things under the hood more than they have on the outside lately. So if you're confused about whether you need that upgrade or if your current phone is still the one, I'm here to help you figure that out. No hype, just my honest thoughts after living with these things. So design-wise, we've seen a massive shift in materials. The 13 and 14 Pro use that surgical grade stainless steel. It's shiny, it's heavy, and honestly, it's a bit of a fingerprint magnet. The 13 Pro was also the last to have the notch, while the 14 Pro introduced the dynamic island, which we still use today. Then Apple went to titanium with the 15 and 16 Pro. It made the phones feel way lighter, like noticeably lighter in your pocket. But here's the thing, titanium doesn't handle heat as well as aluminum. That's why the 17 Pro moved to this forged aluminum unibody. It's a bit of a controversial look because of this camera plateau. It's this horizontal bar that replaces the square bump. I actually love it because the phone doesn't wobble on a table anymore, but you have to be careful with the colors. I chose silver for my 17 Pro because of Scratchgate. On forums and YouTube, people are showing that the cosmic orange and deep blue models scratch easily around those sharp plateau edges, revealing the silver metal underneath. With the silver one, a scratch is just, well, silver. It stays looking clean. If you're coming from a 13 or 14 Pro, the 17 Pro feels more rounded and comfy to hold, but you'll definitely want a case to protect that aluminum. Alright, let's talk about the displays and the design because this is where you actually see and feel the differences every day. Now the baseline is that all of these iPhones have 120Hz Pro motion. So even if you're on a 13 Pro, scrolling still feels smooth. But the first really big difference is that on the 13 Pro, the screen can't ramp down to 1 Hz like the other ones. Because of that, the 13 Pro is the only one here that doesn't support the always on display. Personally, that's not a deal breaker for me. I actually keep it off anyway because I'm always worried about my battery, but it's something to know if you really love that feature. Now look at the detail on these. See the 13 Pro? It's the last Pro model to have the notch. Back then it was great because Apple shrunk it a bit to a smaller notch, but compared to the others, it looks a bit old now. From the 14 Pro all the way to the 17 Pro, we have the dynamic island, which was a really nice upgrade. It makes that blank space feel alive with fluid notifications and music controls. Size-wise, the 13 Pro, 14 Pro, and 15 Pro are all that classic 6.1 inch size. It's perfect for compact lovers. But Apple moved up to 6.3 inches on the 16 and 17 Pro. While the bezels are super thin now in the hand, it still feels a bit larger than the 6.1 inch on my old 15 Pro, and the weight is up a bit too. And check out the side buttons. On the 13 and 14 Pro, we still have the old school mute switch. I know some of you love that tactile flick. But from the 15 Pro onwards, Apple moved to the action button. You can map it to anything, the flashlight, voice memos, or even your own shortcuts. And then starting with the 16 Pro, Apple introduced the camera control button on the bottom right. It's nice for swiping through photographic styles or zooming, but for me, it's more of a nice to have than a daily necessity. And we have to talk about brightness. The 17 Pro has a massive 3000 nits peak brightness. On a sunny day, it's like night and day compared to the 13 Pro. It also makes iOS 26's liquid glass style look incredible. It really feels like the icons are floating in a slab of glass. But honestly, on the 13 and 14 Pro, some people on forums are saying this new UI causes eye strain or makes icons look blurry because those older panels aren't tuned for these new refraction effects. If it bothers you, you can just go into accessibility and turn on reduced transparency. Now, performance is where things get really wild in 2026. My 13 Pro is still a champ for basic stuff. Apps open quick, and with 6GB of RAM, it doesn't reload apps in the background as much as the base 13 does. But if you're a gamer or a creator, the gap is getting huge. To give you a smooth look at the numbers, let's just go through them. My 13 Pro baseline got 2426 single core and 5995 multi-core. Honestly, for a 4-year-old phone, that's still really solid. Moving to the 14 Pro, it steps up to 2,692 single-core and 7,018 multi-core, a nice little bump for multitasking. The 15 Pro hit 2,787 and 7,196, which was the first time we saw 8 gigabytes of RAM and AAA gaming on an iPhone. Then last year's 16 Pro really pushed it with 3,448 single core and 8,748 multi-core. But look at this 17 Pro, it's hitting 3,822 on single core and 9,848 on multi-core. That multi-core score is actually beating the M2 chip found in iPads. It's basically a pocket computer at this point. And the GPU gains, we're talking 45,913 on the 17 Pro compared to about 32,766 on the 16 Pro. That's a massive 40% jump in graphics power. The biggest thing Apple fixed this year is the heat. My 15 Pro used to get so hot when I was recording 4K video or playing AAA games, but the 17 Pro has this new vapor chamber cooling system. I can record 4K 120 FPS video for an hour and it barely feels warm. This is because that aluminum unibody and the vapor chamber work together to spread the heat out instantly. If you're coming from a 13 or 14 Pro, the 17 Pro is the first time the phone feels future-proofed for the next 5 years, especially with 12 gigabytes of RAM compared to the 6 or 8 gigabytes on the older models. Alright, let's talk about battery, because in 2026, this is probably the biggest reason any of us actually hit that buy button. I'll be real with you, my iPhone 13 Pro was struggling. I was down to 70% battery health and it was rough. I was charging it 2 or 3 times a day just to get through. Standby time was non-existent. I ended up doing a DIY replacement with an aftermarket battery. As you can see, I get that non-genuine message, but honestly, it's been great. I'm back to getting about 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, which is basically what this phone did when it was brand new back in 2021. It's a 3095 milliamp hour cell, which was actually a legend for its time, but by today's standards, it's the baseline. If you move to the iPhone 14 Pro, it was a tiny bump to 3200 milliamp hours. Apple claimed 23 hours of video playback, but between us, some people on forums actually felt the 14 Pro was worse than the 13 Pro because the always-on display and that A16 chip were a bit thirstier. It's still a twice-a-day charger for most people in 2026. Now, the iPhone 15 Pro was a turning point. We got 3,274 milliamp hours, but more importantly, we got USB-C and that 80% charge limit feature to help the battery last for years. But the real efficiency jump happened with the iPhone 16 Pro. That phone moved up to 3,582 milliamp hours. That's an 8% increase in capacity, and Apple claimed a massive jump to 27 hours of video playback. The A18 Pro chip inside is just so much better at sipping power when you're just scrolling. But then, we have the iPhone 17 Pro. And guys, this is where it gets crazy. Apple managed to fit a 4,252 milliamp hours battery in here. That is nearly a 19% jump over the 16 Pro. We are looking at an expected 31 hours of video playback. I've been using this as my main for 4 months. I'm still at 91 cycles with 100% health, and I never worry about carrying a charger anymore. Plus, they finally bumped the charging speed to 40 watt wired, so you can get a 50% charge in like 20 minutes now. Alright, let's talk cameras, because this is where things get really interesting. The iPhone 13 Pro is still using the triple 12 megapixel setup. It takes great shots, but you're limited to 3x zoom and 1080p cinematic mode. The iPhone 14 Pro was a huge shift because it introduced that first 48 megapixel main sensor, and we finally got 4K cinematic mode and action mode. But honestly, it usually still captured 12 megapixel photos by default, so you didn't always see that extra detail unless you shot in ProRAW. The iPhone 15 Pro made that 48 megapixel sensor more mature. It captures 24 megapixel photos by default now, which gives you a lot more detail when you crop in later. It also introduced log recording for professionals, which was huge back then. Then last year, the iPhone 16 Pro brought 48 megapixel to the ultra-wide lens too. And for the first time, the smaller Pro got the 5x telephoto zoom that used to be exclusive to the Max. It also introduced 4K at 120 FPS recording, which is super smooth. But then we have the iPhone 17 Pro, and this is the triple 48 megapixel era. Every single lens on the back, the main, the ultra wide, and the telephoto is now 48 megapixel. The zoom is the best I've ever used. We get a native 4x optical zoom, but because of that 48 megapixel sensor, it does an optical quality ATOL crop and can go all the way to 40x digital. And for video, it's not just 4K 120 FPS. We have this new feature called dual capture. It lets you record with both the front and back cameras at the same time in 4K. Perfect for reaction style videos. My personal favorite, the square selfie sensor. Since it's square, you can film landscape selfies while holding the phone vertically. It has a selfie rotate button that centers the camera preview with the lens, so your eye gaze looks totally natural instead of looking off to the side. It's a massive quality of life upgrade for creators. So what's the final verdict for 2026? Honestly, the iPhone 13 Pro is still an absolute legend. If you just need a reliable phone for social media and texting, just replace the battery and keep it. It's the affordable Pro sweet spot right now. But if you're sitting on a 13 or 14 Pro and you feel like your phone is getting warm or the screen isn't bright enough outside, the 17 Pro is the first time in years it's felt like a massive leap, not just an incremental one. Between the 12 gigabytes of RAM for AI, the vapor chamber cooling, and that incredible new camera setup, it's built for the long haul. But hey, that's just my experience. What are you guys using? Are you still rocking the 13 Pro, or are you tempted by that silver 17? Let me know in the comments. If this helped you out, a like and a sub would be amazing. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.